The information and opinions presented in this podcast are based on research done at a particular point in time. The fields of medicine, surgery, psychology, etc. are constantly evolving as new studies and movements happen. Please take into account the year of any particular episode's publication, and as new information presents itself, we will do our best to release updated episodes on the topics. Listener discretion is advised for references to medical terminology of body parts. Unless otherwise stated, no one speaking on this podcast is a medical or legal professional and cannot provide medical or legal advice. Welcome to the Trans Field Guide. Please join me in welcoming Harper back onto the show.
You know, there is something that comes with gender exploration that kind of is on that track that I have been meaning to talk about, and it's that once you socially transition, and this is for people who are on HRT as well, but I feel like is more, not dangerous, but like harder to do for people that aren't on HRT. When I first transitioned, I rejected everything that was female. Even though I was non-binary, even though I knew that's like, you know, I was somewhere in the middle. I'm more transmasculine, but somewhere in the middle. I rejected everything female because I was just like, I don't want anything to do with that. And slowly, I have been adding more female things back into my life. Like things that I consider feminine, like being cute, or being groomed in a certain way, or, you know, talking in a certain way, or being vulnerable with people in a certain way that I considered to be vulnerable. So that is something that comes along with social transition that is a danger, because everybody talks about the dangers of HRT, but the danger of social transition is because you do not have the HRT, you know, as a backup to show that, why, yes, I am whatever gender, you know, you feel almost like you have to try harder to prove that you're which you don't. Absolutely not. The only person you're having to prove that to is yourself.
Yeah.
But, you know, to prove to people that, you know, I am this gender, you know, or I am non-binary, or I am a man, or I am a woman, or...
Which then does get, like you said, more difficult for people who are non-binary, because it's like, how do you prove that you're non-binary?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the, like, what you see on social media of non-binary models, and they wear, like, the tuxedo shirt with a skirt. Type of thing. It's like, do I need to dress like that in order for people to, you know, accept that this is how it is? Or like if you're gender fluid, it's like, do I have to go 100% masc or 100% femme when I'm feeling one way or the other? What if I'm not feeling anything?
The other thing about it too is like most people think about the very basics of like mixing and matching, like you were talking about with the tuxedo jacket and the skirt, where, you know, like maybe for a trans feminine person it's just that like a more masculine like pantsuit. Or, you know, for a trans-masculine person, or somebody non-binary leaning more masculine, maybe a very flamboyant kind of, for lack of a better term, gay-looking suit with, like, decals and, like, brocade. Very Elton John.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many ways of exploring gender through fashion, through clothes, that people don't think about, that people are afraid about. But with the fear of sounding cliche, I mean, YOLO, you know? People are going to say what they're going to say. And I've gotten to the point where most of the time I don't care.
Which is a very hard mental place to get to, is the not giving a shit.
That's why I said most of the time.
Yeah.
There are definitely days where I look down at my chest and I'm like, these are not supposed to be here. Or I look at my presentation and I'm like, this does not look right. I'm like, am I just playing, and am I just a really butch lesbian? Like, what's happening here? But those moments come further and further in between than they used to. It did take a long time. It took almost a year of me becoming comfortable with myself, and something that I continue to have to work on, and something I continue having to do consciously. Because most people are like, oh, when you get to the level of like not giving a shit, like it's just like, oh, it's just something that's natural for you now. No, it is a conscious effort all the time.
For some very lucky people, it is like a switch where it just kind of turns off. But then that also kind of gets into how much of that is them comfortably not giving a shit, and how much of it is them dissociating to some extent. And you can also not give a shit, but because of the fact that you're intensely depressed.
Yeah.
And you've just reached the numbness of depression.
There's an art, a subtle art, For me, the reasons that I didn't want to transition medically, and by that I mean HRT, is that I don't do body hair very well. I am cool with my legs being hairy. Feel like that is like a good adjuster in the whole masc femme balance for me, which some people aren't even on that spectrum at all, they're something else, But for me, that's like a balance between masc and femme is having the vellus hairs on my legs. There's a point at which my armpit hair gets too long, but not shaving my armpit hair either. But other than that, body hair, no. Like, I couldn't imagine just being a hairy dude. That's just not me. It's not me, bro. And I know you've had a previous episode about this. Trans feminine people are the most enthusiastic hair removal people ever. Oh. And I applaud them on their efforts, but I just am lazy. And I just couldn't imagine myself having to go through that much effort to relieve my dysphoria and like getting past my dysphoria enough to be able to do those things. Because there are some trans people I know who really feel better when they're shaved, but they just have so much dysphoria it turns into depression and they can't. That was just a personal choice for me. I was like, I know that I'm a hairy person anyway. I already have terminal hairs on my face, and I'm not on HRT. That was another thing. The facial hair is just not something I could do. And that's the thing that people who are on T are like really excited about, right? Is the facial hair. Everybody talks about having a beard, and like once a trans guy grows a beard, it's just like, I'm not shaving this for anything, even though it would look so much better if they did. I'm just like, no, I'm keeping this half beard that I have. There are cis guys that I'm just like, oh, honey, no. You need to shave that, please. Cannot do body hair. Cannot do facial hair. Only hair I like is the ones on top of my head and my armpits. That's what I'm cool with. And even then, like my armpit hair and my leg hair, sometimes I'm just like, this is too long. Once I start feeling the wind blowing in my leg hair, I'm just like, no, this has gotta go. There were things I wanted from T that I considered. Mainly voice. The voice thing is just like something that I could do on my own. Probably couldn't get to the type of register that I could if I had taken T, but I can do voice training and get to a very low register without having to take T. Things that come with patience are things that I want from T, which is mostly the voice, a little bit the fat redistribution. That a little bit can come from exercise and muscle building. So I always worry when I talk about these things that people are like, oh, well, they're just afraid to take T. This just sounds like they're afraid to take T. Even now, like, while I'm saying this, I'm just like, I want to be like, but I'm not afraid to take T, though. Just listing the reasons I don't want to take it. Transition with HRT, but without surgery. I know a lot of trans girls, especially sex workers, they're like, no, I mean, like, this is my dick and I have sex with it, but, it's a girl's dick.
And even though our technology and our practices for trans feminine gender affirming surgery is a lot better than trans masculine, there are certain things that a surgically created vagina is not going to do compared to a homegrown.
I like that, homegrown.
Free range.
Free range vagina. What I like to call surgically created vaginas are handcrafted artisan vaginas.
I like that. Yeah. We've got the handcrafted artisan vaginas, and then we have the homegrown free-range vaginas.
Oh man, now you're sounding like you're like selling them. Great salesperson over there.
Oh my god. Anyway.
And vice versa for sex workers. Honestly, there are some people I know in the industry who don't want any HRT because it does affect the way that you get erections. And it does affect the way that, and they just want to have everything else feminine and can be achieved by surgery with FFS, with the bone shaving and trach shaving and implants, everything. Yeah. A lot of people are just like, oh, they go hand in hand, but they really don't.
You are not required to have HRT in order to have any surgery, except for orchiectomy and metoidoplasty and the ovulectomy, where they remove the ovaries.
Yeah.
If you're removing something that produces hormones, then yes, you have to be on a hormone therapy. It's just what hormone you're going to be on determines on what results you want.
Yeah.
Because even cis people, if they have to get a
hysterectomy,
specifically the where they take the
like a full hysterectomy.
Yeah, if they have to get that, then they have to be on estrogen for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
If something happens to a cis man's gonads, then, and there's significant damage to those and they have to get them removed, then they have to be on testosterone therapy for the rest of their life.
My trans feminine friend likes to play something with medical providers called Trans Chicken. Where she will, while going through medical history, they'll go through her medications, and she's taking spironolactone, and which is a drug that's used for HRT, but also is used for other things. It's used for skincare. It's a diuretic, and estrogen, and progesterone. So she will see how long it takes for the nurse or medical assistant to find out she's trans. She puts female on her paperwork because legally she is female. And usually the question comes up, oh, when did you have your hysterectomy? When they're going through surgical history? And she's like, oh, I'm trans. Oh, I didn't come with one of those?
It was not factory standard.
It was an extra package that I just didn't want to go for at that point.
Like this episode? Tell someone about it. Resources referenced in this episode can be found in the show notes at transfieldguide.com. Stay safe, and remember that I'm proud of you.